And we are live. This is the new morning show, Politics with Peyman and JP. And today we will be discussing World War III and the plague. Beautiful, lovely, lovely topics today. How are you doing, brother?
Doing pretty good. That's an apt topic to start with. That's the description of where the world's at.
It really is too, though. I mean, that's like Trump. Trump just refused the latest compromise from Iran, and they want this war. I get the impression now that everything is just a show and they're just going through the motions so they can have this war.
It feels like people really want they yearn for the next news cycle. When the Iran conflict started, everybody, it was like the talk of the town. What's going on in Iran? What's going to happen? What has Trump done? Now that it's died down and they refuse the terms of the peace, people are like, who gives a shit? Where we've moved on to hantavirus.
That's what it's like, as if it's a movie, or everyone's like tired of a stale plot, and it's like, okay, well, we're tired of this angle. Let's explore something else. But it's by far the most relevant thing. And when you look at it with the Russia-Ukrainian conflict too, like RT, if you watch anything from Russian television, they report this as one conflict. They report this as the West against the BRIC nations. And you could see why they would think that. But in the West, we think of this as like separate conflicts in some way. I don't see anyone that draws them together, which they clearly are again.
It reminds me of World War II. We call it World War II. The Russians called it the Great Patriotic War. Like they saw it as Russia against Germany.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that with World War I and World War II, it wasn't initially identified as like when the fighting started, it wasn't like, oh, well, this is World War II. It wasn't until, a while into it where you realize, okay, this is a world war. Like it's not something you realize right away. But I mean, watching what's happening now in the world, it's very evident that we're in World War III. And I think that's how history will remember it.
I'm reminded of a joke, like this time traveler goes back in time to 1917, and he turns to the guy. He's like, "Oh yeah, you guys are still fighting World War One." And the guy's like, "What do you mean World War One? There's a World War Two."
Yeah, that's really where it is. And I don't know, man. It's like I said, we get on this topic a lot. I've lost all faith in the Trump administration. I think they're being influenced by larger, more powerful aspects of the ruling class. But with that said, I'm very happy to be wrong about that. Like that's like everyone gives me shit, and it's like I just think, how can you guys still have faith in this? Like faith isn't for politicians and public servants, especially like billionaire charlatan type, personalities. Like admire what he's doing with the proof of it, but don't have faith in that. That's wild to me. So it's just from my perspective, you should be scrutinizing him right now. And if it turns out that there was some 5D chess going on, and it's all this attack on the city of London, and we're going to bring back liberty for the West, like then we'll apologize. We'll admit we were wrong. But I mean, it doesn't look like that.
Yeah, right now I'm sort of in proof pudding territory with the Trump administration. I've de-escalated from Trump is controlled opposition. So, but let's go back to the Iran situation. As I alluded to, I've stopped following it as closely as I did. I was just like hanging on every word that Colonel McGregor was saying during the conflict. Iran offered terms, and they were sort of acceptable terms to start with, and then Trump turned around and either violated or started the blockade. Where are we at now?
It's a good question, and the wild card in this whole peace negotiations is Israel, and Israel's seemingly independent territorial ambitions, their expansionist ambitions. Like, why are they attacking southern Lebanon? I know they say it's Hezbollah. They have strongholds there. It's like they're decimating and they're turning like all of these southern villages and towns into rubble. And it's just watching it. It's like, yeah, that's not what's going on here. Like there's incongruous things that both parties want. Like Trump wants to kind of get out of this at this point. That's my interpretation. He doesn't want to to lose in the negotiations and it to be perceived as a loss. But then you have the Netanyahu regime that just seems to want to sabotage this peace in any way.
The Israeli component, it's not even a Jewish component. I think it's a Christian component that makes it complicated for politicians. When I was on the debate stage and somebody asked me, they're like, "Will you admit that Israel is committing genocide in Palestine?" And I went as far as to say that what they're doing is murder, it's heinous, they're killing people. But I said to the guy, I'm like, listen, Canada, it's still got a whole bunch of Christian population and they're aligned with Israel. Like it's political suicide to say that Israel is committing genocide. Um, that's why Israel can get away with this because they actually people sympathize in the West more with a Jewish Israeli state than any of the other Islamic states. And nobody is looking at that. It's not just that the politicians are bought and paid for. The voters are paying for this.
So before I respond to that, Payman, we have Clown World. So there's an issue with your audio. Can you get a bit closer onto your microphone potentially?
I can't really get closer. I can try. Let me increase the gain. Push it to max.
It sounds good to me. So you could let us know, Clown World, if you're still listening, if that improved anything. I kind of forgot where you were going with that said. What was the point you made right quick?
There's a sympathy. There's almost a hatred of Muslims, and then there's a sympathy of Jews. And this is amongst the Christians. I can only describe it as like a hangover of the Crusades.
Well, and again, there's some of that. The biggest thing is in America is the evangelical communities are largely Christian Zionists. So that's like that's a really specific aspect of theology that from my standpoint as a Catholic, it's theologically retarded. It makes no sense at all. It's they believe that it's almost like they forego the new covenant of Christ, which is Christianity in all its forms. It's predicated on this new covenant with Jesus. But they believe in like dispensational times, like there's God's chosen people are still God's chosen people. So they'll call regular Christianity replacement theology. Oh, well, you're replacing, and it's I know it sounds really convoluted, but it's a major factor. And there's Baptist communities and there's evangelical communities in America that are immensely powerful politically. And they, in some really weird way, and this is true, you'll observe this yourself, they worship Jewish people. And it's the irony is like most of the Jews, you go to New York, I think that's the biggest Jewish community in the world in New York, not in Israel. And a lot of these Torah Jews and Orthodox Jews, they don't support Israel. They think it's an abomination of their culture. So Israel's mostly like secular people. So it's a mess. It really is, especially when you're trying to understand it.
Yeah, it is. I'm just thinking in the West, especially the youth, they're getting tired of this because we're moving away from God, we're moving away from Christianity. This has been going on since the 60s. And yet you still have a Christian community in Canada, and that Christian community supports Israel. You have a youth that's coming up that wants to be, they don't care. It's not that they don't care about religion or God. Their principal aim in life is to own a home. And they're like, if supporting Israel isn't going to further that goal. And I feel like those two groups are on a collision course.
Yeah, and you're seeing aspects of that in the MAGA fracture in America, and it's like, why are we sending all this money to Israel when we have all these domestic issues? And that's very evident. It's because there's an empire. A lot of people don't think of that. Like America after the Cold War, they were the power globally. They said everything. They policed the world. They've been doing it for the majority of my lifetime. So it's there's a lot of that's playing into it, and people don't even realize that. And there's like a dichotomy between what they're calling isolationists. Oh, like you're just an isolationist if you don't want to police the world and make sure that America's interests and its allies' interests are represented militarily around the world. It's like it's very similar to Rome. right? I don't know if it's a factor of ambition and it's an inevitability for an empire, but it's like we're all stretched too far, and the home province, the home base, America is hurting now. It's not in good shape.
What you're describing is Pax Americana. People call it the neocon sort of impulse. You have to go around the world and blast anyone that dares oppose the U.S. prime reserve currency, which is what fuels all of this defense of trade routes. That's really what the U.S. empire is. Use our dollars, and we'll make sure that Somali pirates don't rob everything on the open seas. Um, but it kind of it ties into what I'm trying to say. Like, the people didn't vote for Trump as to promote or to sustain Pax Americana. They voted him in to dismantle the globalist system, and he was doing a good job. But with this invasion of Iran, I feel like he lost control of the narrative. He lost control of the media, and his opponents managed to use that media against him in a way that they had failed up until the Iran invasion. And now I don't know who's running the narrative. I mean, I don't think it's Trump and his Truth Social post anymore.
No, and I just get the impression, and again, this is conjecture. Anyone who's coming at these topics with this certitude, it's coming from a place of arrogance, because this is the most convoluted moment to try to figure out what's going on. But with that said, that was a big qualifier. With that said, I don't think Trump's in charge. I mean, why would you do this? Why would you run as this, kind of anti-establishment populist figure who's going to make America great again, and then get in, you're a repudiation of everything that neoconservatism is, and then you come in and you just 180? So not only is he sabotaging the midterms, he's sabotaging the base of voters, MAGA, this very precarious group of different interests that have got together to kind of give one last shot at saving this thing. And there's a lot of people that are taking this huge black pill. I mean, I had a hard time with it. Like, if Trump and this team that was going in there can't do it, then I mean, there's something above the government that's making the decisions. And that's kind of the conversation a lot of people aren't willing to have.
So going back to Iran, where are we right now? Are we still the sort of blockade, counter blockade, and the price of oil keeps going up, but Trump comes out and says nothing to see here, so momentarily it goes down? Is that where we are?
Pretty much. I mean, I couldn't assess it any better. There's constant negotiations going on, seemingly in the background, and again, they're being sabotaged a lot. There's a ton of people. There's a ton. Worse than that, there's a lot of very powerful billionaires. You got these billionaire Zionists in America that are pressuring in every way they can. The whole APAC angle. You have very powerful people that want this conflict. And I mean, that's like most conflicts. It's never the people in the countries that the regular people that want to go fight and die for these bankers wars, but that's what ends up happening.
You bring up the billionaires. The Democrats are starting to make their move. AOC, she did a podcast where she says, like, in her usual ditzy voice, you don't just become a billionaire. It's so difficult. And the irony that she's a useless barista who went to politics and became a millionaire. You have Mamdani, who's talking about taxing the rich, which I kind of to a certain extent approve of. And then you have the mayor of, I think it's Seattle, where she's giving free lunches. Like, the left is going all in on socialism and the welfare state. And I think that's going to be the play we're going to see moving to the midterms. And that's why I say I'm pissed off that Trump, you picked this moment to destroy fracture the base.
And that's what I mean. If you didn't know any better, you would think like he's sabotaging himself. Like, there's no way that this couldn't have played any differently. Like, so it's like there's cause and effect with things, and you're aware of it, especially in his position. So it just makes me think there's externalities that are forcing him to make these decisions. The whole thing with the Democrats, when I look at it, this billionaire vilifying the billionaires, and I get it. I get why it's popular, especially when everyone's suffering. But It's the banking. It's the banking system. It's not even the billionaires. Like we can augment. There can be tweaks economically. Like I've been learning a lot about Douglas social credit. That's what I've been doing all weekend. Has been researching this, but like you could just remove the bankers and the massive amounts of debt they create. Our whole system is predicated on scarcity and debt. For them to be looking and blaming the billionaires, I think it's low resolution. When you start to actually get into the economics of it, it's simply the bankers. We need to decentralize the banks, and everything else can kind of start to function again.
I watched your interview on social credit, and that gentleman, he highlighted the structural problems in our monetary system in such a easy to understand way, and I was really impressed. And I'm thinking to tie that into the hantavirus thing, and under COVID, they said there was this massive threat, so we have to print money, and there's something about the system that because we're creating counterfeit money, like you're just printing money out of thin air, and you're putting people into debt because they have to pay a vig on that counterfeit money. The system just needs more and more money and more debt. So I am a little bit worried that who's our prime minister, Carney, that jackal will try to use the hantavirus as an excuse to print into in oblivion.
And he's already printing us into oblivion. Like it's just phenomenal the money that's been given to and sent to Ukraine, who's not even really a NATO ally. Um, clearly there's more complexity there that I'm not looking to delve into, but just that alone, like $26 billion, while Canada's got like record breaking deficits. It's like I say, man. I don't know how this doesn't turn into hyperinflation. There's a lot of people like um, different excuse me, different trades and professions that are going on strike now, unions going on strike. And it's because like they made an agreement for their wage, but inflation is so bad now it's not what it should be, right? Like the numbers don't make sense. And I think like that could just create a bomb in the economy because like right now where I'm at here in Nova Scotia, my wife works in she's a receptionist for a construction company, and these various trade unions are striking, and they're all kind of going out together for the same reasons. It's not enough money, and that if that really spreads, like that could be the beginning of the crash. Like we're so fragile. It's such a precarious situation economically that it's just like someone standing there like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dam, waiting for it to break, and it could be anything that kind of is the catalyst for it.
The gentleman you interviewed on social credit, he said, there's always more. The system creates more debt. It's built into it because you have to pay back the interest on your loans. So that's why they want full employment. And with these unions, I mean, their heart's in the right place. Like they realize that their living standards are going down. They're like, how do we fight back? But it's a band-aid approach.
Hmm.
The entire monetary system is designed to get worse and worse until it collapses. And everybody is like they're in survival mode. They're trying to get whatever they can, even if it's at the expense of other people in society.
Yeah, it's almost like the situation we're in. It's like a Ponzi scheme, and it's predicated on creating more debt, either household debt or national debt. But the way we influx revenue into the economy because there's not enough of it is to create debt, and then there's the interest to service that debt. And like all of this is unnecessary. There's I'm sure there's more ways than merely Douglas social credit. Now I'm very compelled by this specific economic theory, but like that's just a major deficiency, like structurally in the way we do it. And I'm not even going to say like it was on purpose and there's bankers they want to wield control. That could be the case, but it's irrelevant. What we know for sure is that this is a flaw. It's a deficiency, and we should all be like getting on the same page. Is like we got to fix this.
Yeah, but like if you look at the sovereign wealth fund, they're not looking to fix it. Again, they're scrambling because they're in survival mode and they're looking to prop it up. They're essentially kicking the can down the road. And from a politician's perspective, I get that. You don't want to be the politician that caused, the French Revolution because your entire monetary system collapsed on your watch. But the the people have to get together and say, this is, let's educate ourselves, let's find a way out of this. Otherwise, it's going to end very badly.
Yeah, it's like every politician that gets in has short-term goals, so then they employ short-term thinking, and like what we need is someone to look at the structural deficiencies and look for like real reform, like systemic reform. And it's like you said, they're just not incentivized to. It's not the way it works. They're just looking to the next election campaign essentially. And that short-term situation, kind of the compounding effect of every leader having those short-term goals, it's really got us in a bind here, and it's not going to be an easy fix.
I want to go back to some of the topics, this Russia-Ukraine conflict. I get the feeling that Putin's position is becoming very weak because he hasn't finished the war. He's not taking a strong stance against America. Iran has shown that it's got way bigger cojones than all of Russia, despite Russia being the biggest country on the planet. And Ukraine is, let's be honest, it's resorting to terrorism, which is what losers always do in a war. When you can't win in a war, you resort to terrorism, and they're committing drone attacks within Russia. And Russia's got a decision to make. Like, are they going to risk attacking a NATO country like Germany that's producing these drones?
And that's the situation he's in. I've been watching this the whole time. I had the impression that like Putin was one of the adults in the room. I know you're not allowed to say that, but like he was seemingly exercising a rare degree of restraint, knowing the military capabilities comparatively. Like he could have just flattened Ukraine right away. Didn't want to do that is the impression I got. And there's a lot of hardliners underneath him that would do that. And now it's probably starting to look like weakness to them. They could probably smell an opportunity. So I mean, we could see Putin replaced. It's very likely. Like Russia's suffered a lot of losses in this war. There's no resolution, and it almost seems like he's waiting for Trump to resolve it. I think he knows, and it's between a rock and a hard place for this guy because if he does attack Germany, it's going to be immediately like that will pull America and back into it. I believe that. I wonder though, honestly, watching it all, are they all just back together now? Whatever fracture happened in the ruling class with the EU, with the City of London, with America, or did they resolve this behind the scenes? And now we're just watching some kind of elaborate show.
I mean, maybe they did. The banking system has to go on in their eyes. The 2025 election, I remember the liberals, like liberal voters, were frothing at the mouth anytime you mentioned Vladimir Putin. They say he's a madman. It's all about territorial acquisition. He wants to rebuild the Soviet Union. And even as crazy as they are, I think they've kind of tempered down their rhetoric because, we tried to assassinate, well, the Trump administration tried to assassinate Putin. Like that would have been an absolute disaster. Like, I don't know who's making these decisions in the White House, but as you said, it really does seem like Putin is the only adult in the room.
Yeah, that's been the impression I had for a long time now. But I mean, and I really thought that maybe like he knew like Trump's going to try to disempower the banks and the oligarchs and like actually take sovereignty back for America, for the people, and and therefore end the conflict. And I just don't think that's the case. And we all watch that happen slowly. And it's been a process of realization. I see a lot of people that are still like they get mad at me. Like there's a few of my followers that are like good followers. Like one guy I got tipped, he bought like 5 coffees. It's like a $25 tip. And he's like, please be a little more considerate with Trump. He's doing this. And it's like, look, man, like I try to be fair and I'm happy to be wrong, but I have to call things as I see them. Like I don't have much except my conviction and my authenticity. So I'm not willing to leave that. And I don't blindly trust. I have no faith in politicians. I have faith in Christ. Like that's where my faith goes, like that, and that's a whole different dynamic. But I can't imagine how anyone could rationalize that stance. Let's just have blind faith in Trump, even though he's taken a 180 on all of his major policy promises. Like, that's lunacy to me.
Revere but verify. There's got to be there's two possible outcomes. One is Trump actually delivers, and you get this arc thing, America, Russia, China, peace on earth, and they all work together. You get sovereignty in the quote unquote Hamiltonian system of trade. The other way is, the neocons get their way. They recognize that they can't be the global hegemon. So they're just going to be, the Western Hemisphere superpower. It's a consolidation, but everything is going to continue as it did before.
That kind of made a little sense to me, and that's what I thought we were seeing when the national defense strategy was released, and he was like telling Europe, like, we're not really going to support all your crazy shit anymore. And when he went down, even when the Maduro incident happened, um, with Venezuela, I thought, like, wow, he's really like looking to his enemies that are near. Maybe with that kind of understanding that this American hegemon is going to be different in the future, and we want to ensure that the countries closest to us are stable. I was really hoping that after Maduro, they were going to start looking at Canada and pressuring Canada, because Canada's in the process of transitioning to a totalitarian state. We're all watching it in real time. But then instead, we've seen this war with Iran. Because the rhetoric, the propaganda to get us in and to justify this war is the same that we've seen with the Iraq war. Weapons of mass destruction. They're enriching uranium. Like, they're getting a bomb. 30 years Netanyahu's been sitting down in front of American Congress talking about the refinement of plutonium and how close they were to a bomb, and it's never been true. I don't think it's true now. Like, oh, they, like, especially after we apparently decimated their capabilities with those strikes, those targeted strikes on their military sites. Like, none of that makes sense, and yet people will have the utmost conviction in this war propaganda.
I think Trump enabled his opponents to use his weaknesses against him. His administration is not very strong. Like, Pete Hegseth is not the most cunning. Marco Rubio, sorry, I got the impression that he sort of was getting ready to throw Trump under a bus over this Iran thing. Like, he didn't really come out swinging because everyone says he's such a clever guy. JD Vance, he was sort of seen as the savior, the potential savior of this, so they pushed him aside because he was more against the war, and his Trump's opponents used that against him. And now I don't know what the narrative is. Like, I don't know what the next step for the Trump administration is. Is it Southern Poverty Law Center? Is it the Epstein files? What's the one thing that's going to unite the base?
I think, number one, if he could get out of this Iran conflict, which is seemingly impossible at this point, especially with the rhetoric that's coming out of the White House, but if he could, that would be humongous. And then if he could start some of his promises, like actually deport some people, like actually make some changes and stuff like that's going to fire the base up. Everything else, it's just rhetoric, and it's actions speak far louder than words. The midterms are upon us, and I think they're going to take massive losses.
You know what I want to see? You use the D word, deportations. I am so angry. They let in 20 million people and he's deported what, 1 million?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is that? You know what they should do at the White House? They should have like I don't know, like a bar graph. Like, here's our target. Here's how many we've deported, and every day, like, you just show somebody coming and moving it up a bit, and just demonstrate how many people they're deporting. If there's protesters, I mean, if they're legal, that's fine. But if they're being funded by like George Soros, go after the protesters and arrest them, sure. But like, bring a charge against George Soros. Like, bring something to give me hope that we can push back against these NGOs and the tentacles of this massive octopus.
And my big fear is that Trump is just part of it. I think of Catherine Austin Fitts when she says, like, how do you get Americans, gun-owning conservative Americans, to be cool with the federal government rounding people up in the streets? You know what I mean? Like by having those powers, like how do you justify bringing about a digital ID? Well, you get someone like Trump, a figure like Trump, who he's on your side and they perceive him as being on their side. And then there's this unique dynamic with Trump where he was criticized so bad for the last decade. The most ridiculous criticisms too, like the Stormy Daniels, all this bullshit from his past to come up to discredit him, that his base, his true supporters, they're used to these allegations. So now when they're relevant, when the criticisms of Trump and his moves are very questionable and these criticisms are relevant, they're just like, nah, man, we heard it before. He's our guy, right? Where you're a panicking. That's the word they use. It's so lame. But you get like your cat turd types, these like boomer Trumps, these boomer cons that are just, he can't do no wrong. And it's like, these people aren't critical thinkers. They have a savior complex. So like they can't process reality. When that person that they view as their savior does something that flies in the face, it's antithetical to what he was supposed to do, they still can't compute that. And then they're left there like all they have is like their egos invested. So it's like, we support him. You're a dummy. Like it's very low resolution thinking.
Yeah, it's the savior thing is kind of like criticizing someone's deity. It's you criticize Jesus and then Christians get offended. It does have that same effect with Trump.
So I think we should, it's a half hour and we should probably go over to the questions. And we got a great one from Clown World to start us off. Putin is not weak regarding the war. He's just been busy interfering in Alberta's independence.
But don't forget the trucker conflict as well. Yeah, those truckers getting money from Russia.
That's gonna probably not be beaten. That's the question of the episode. That's really funny. But
yeah, so to Clown World's point, they did try to circulate that. I think the BBC said that Alberta is taking money from Russia, and in like every war movie, you got two sides, and you're waiting that the calm before the storm for the single shot to be fired. That's what I was waiting for with this Alberta referendum. I'm like, surely Ottawa is going to get in and try to shut it down.
I think they're honestly going to pull every dirty trick they have to, and they're going to do everything necessary to not lose Alberta. Because if Alberta goes, I think the whole thing is done, and they know it. So that's kind of like the front line for them in this war. And you'll see, Carney, I mean, we're talking about a central banker that was flown in here. He was parachuted in here. The leadership race was weird as hell. There were two underdogs that were projecting ahead of him, and they were just plucked out. And then he makes a comeback against controlled opposition, Pierre Poilievre, 20 points. He leads. Pierre Poilievre loses his district. There's no complaints. And then he achieves his majority government. We elected. We approved and elected a liberal minority government, supposedly, if you believe in the integrity of our electoral process. And then this man, for the first time in Canadian history, through backroom deals far from public scrutiny, he convinces 4 Conservative MPs and 1 NDP MP to join the Liberals, giving him a majority. And this isn't just a normal time. Right now, with the bills they're endeavoring to push through, Bill C2, C22, C11, C63, they literally transition fundamental things about Canada's law. And he's going to do this with no democratic mandate from the people, because he didn't. He assembled his government through like some shady dealings, and everyone knows that. And we're watching this and no one's doing anything.
If you want a cold shower, go watch the Bruce Party episode with Jason James. And Jason said what you just said, and Party says, listen, you might not like it, but what they did was legal. It was done through our system of Westminster government, and the people support it. So the country is, his message was, the country is just far too left, and it's going to take a long time to fix it.
I wouldn't say it's far too left. I'd say they're far too propagandized. And I mean, I question if they support it. Like, I personally, man, I don't trust our elections at all. And just watching and observing the way it's occurring, like, I think I think people are being manipulated, but I think a lot of people are opposed to this. And I don't know, man. Who am I to disagree with Bruce Party? But I don't think this is a big left-right thing. I never seen it like that. I think that's bullshit. I think that's the way. That's the primary mechanism they utilize to manipulate our behavior. I think this goes above it all. If we really want to get to the root of the causation of all of these problems, it's in monetary policies. You got to attack the Federal Reserve. You got to attack the structural problems with it.
I agree with you, but how do you do that with the people that are living in a welfare state that's based on that monetary policy?
Yeah. Well, the whole problem is education. That's been the problem through history. You're familiar with American history, like they were more educated, and Benjamin Franklin, he realized that the ones that weren't educated needed to be educated in order to grasp these concepts of liberty, to individual freedoms. So he had, I believe it was called Poor Richard's Almanac, and he started publishing this almanac, and it had a lot of these themes, and it was educating the populace. Now that was a novel way of doing it back in his time, but what do we do now when every avenue of discourse, like social media, is not social media, it's social conditioning. If you don't have a voice that they want amplified, you're suppressed on there. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. And it seems like a lot of it's just to fuel the division and to condition us into these different sides. And that's the way they accomplish their ends.
I'm off social media. So I was on Nico's podcast yesterday and I was looking at the comments and everybody is panicking over this hantavirus. Because I'm not on social media, I'm not subject to government propaganda as much. That's all you have to do if you want. Well, that's one easy thing to do to get away from this tyranny. Just turn it off.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. And this antivirus, let's touch on this for a minute. Um, I did a little tiny bit of research, but it's super rare for human to human spread of this. Like you have to come in contact with like fecal matter or have an extended period of contact with people. It's usually spread through like contaminated feces, mouse feces, and rat feces. Like this doesn't strike me as something that has the potential of being a pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing with COVID. I guess COVID was airborne, but they'll find a way to blow it out of proportion. I just don't know if it's going to work this time because the people are exhausted, and some normies have woken up, so it's going to be a tough hill to climb. On the other hand, they need the money, so they need a reason to infuse money into the system, and it'll be interesting to see what decision they make.
Yeah. This again, it all seems so synthetic now. It's like there's a surreal aspect to the news cycle. It's just like for me, I'm wondering like, is any of it real? So we got a comment from Tony L. Tarrant. The wife just got called back to work. Unions in the auto industry are barely holding on, in my opinion.
I wonder if his wife works for the union or the auto industry.
Yeah. This is what I'm hearing. Like I have a lot of friends that are in unions too, and like they're not happy with their deals. That's the primary reason is living expenses are exceeding the deals that were made. So like there's just a lot of people that they're ready to strike. And it's like I say, we could see a cascading effect or a domino effect where everyone just it goes together and the country gets shut down. Like we're in that kind of territory. It's that precarious.
I, there's this book. It's called Red Dragon or London Money Changers, something like that. And the guy he describes in the 1870s the problem in the U.S. with the bankers taking everything over. And then in the last chapter, he provides a solution to that problem, and the solution comes in the form of a union. And if you read his like description of how to go through the problem, the union, the solution, you recognize that the only reason unions exist is because our legislatures are failing. If the legislatures did their job and they were a place that people could go to redress of grievances, you wouldn't need a union. So your union is like a parallel legislature, and it goes back to what I said: this band-aid approach. Like the system has cancer, and you're just trying to prop it up so that you can get through this next 60 years of your life and then die.
Yeah, I listened recently to a podcast by Murder Maid. I think it was called Who's America, but it was relative to the origination of labor unions in America, and some of the things they went through. And like a lot of people don't realize, especially on the right, because the right are conditioned to worship the free market. Right, anything is an impediment on the free market, that's communism. You're a communist, right? So they don't understand that like a lot of the things, almost everything that working people have, came from these unions fighting back. So it's complex. I'm not a big fan of the political power they have presently, and I think they could be a really bad or detrimental, have a very detrimental influence. But at the same time, I'm aware of the history and I understand why they came up. And what you said is relevant. It's a band-aid solution. It's like if you be as gracious as you can, and you think everything is just happening because people are kind of trying their best and they have their own interests mixed in, but like you could see how we could get here, right? Like something's not functioning. So we try to fix it without looking at the systemic causational aspect. And that's what we need to do now. We need adults in the room that are not going to be hyper partisan or hyper tribalistic. And we're going to look at this like, how can we really take practical steps or pragmatic steps to resolve this issue? What's the main causational aspect? And for me, in my very limited knowledge, I'm not on here trying to speak above my weight, but it's the banking system. It's monetary policy. Like if we could straighten that out, everything else would just work way better. How do you do that is the big question.
Yeah, yeah, it's not easy. I'll just say that the unions have become the very thing that they sought to reform. Like the legislature was taken over by industrialists, whatever, bankers, and now the unions have been taken over. The political parties have been taken. Everything's just been taken over, and it's like a game of whack-a-mole. Like we, the people, we take something back, and then the bankers just come and take that over too.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. All of everything we do to try to remedy something ends up being subverted by these same powers. And that's the big problem. And that's one of the big flaws of democracy. When you think about it, like it's almost inevitable that it's going to be influenced in a poor way by the successful people in the market.
It's evil, the presence of evil.
Indeed. So Andre Maloche reposted the stream. Thank you very much, sir. We got Johnny Tightlips here, loyal viewer. Yes, the system needs more money and more debt. The best way to achieve that is by causing more chaos. Marx Carnage, the chaos agent banker, knows this well.
Yeah. Um, I guess they can't be honest. Look at a war. You could ask like, why do they always lie about these wars? Iran has, is pursuing a nuclear weapon. No, Iran is killing its civilians. No, actually, it's about freeing the women in Iran. And you want to be like, well, why can't you just be honest? You want to go to Iran so that you can take it over, put a puppet government, and strip its resources. I guess it's something about humanity where we don't want to admit that we're the bad guys. And it's sort of the same thing with the economy. They can't just come out and say, listen, we have a piece of shit, a fake economy. Our monetary system is it's not sustainable. So we're just going to print money. No, they have to say, hunt a virus. We need to get PPE masks or, I don't know, rat traps for everybody.
Well, let's just go back and look at some of these things. So, like, we just had a UFO disclosure with all this previously unreleased material of these apparent crafts and UAPs and all of this stuff. And I mean, people weren't crying for that. Like, people wanted the Epstein files, and we got UFO disclosure. It just seems like everything, and now this hantavirus, which again, in my estimation, I'm no epidemiologist, but it's seemingly very unlikely that this it goes anywhere more than localized outbreaks. So I mean, it's just the fear in a distractive regard is how I'm interpreting it. And again, the news cycle is so the pace of it, you can't even keep up. It's like we were saying at the first of the episode, like it's almost like everyone's tired of this Iranian angle, as if it was a script and you're watching a television show. It's like, okay, we're tired of that. Like, what's next? We want something else, and that's what's provided by the media.
Yeah, man, look at all the crap that we'd have to put up with all our lives. The first one was the hole in the ozone layer, global cooling, global warming. Right now it's climate change, killer bees, desertification, global famine. Meteor strike, volcanoes. Am I missing anything? Earthquake.
Oh, there's tons of stuff you're missing. It's nonstop. It's like this cycle of fear and consumption. Keep us afraid, keep us looking at each other and blaming each other, and keep us consuming. And that's how you keep the farm running. But that method's not going to work anymore. So it's like look at X for instance. Elon Musk buys X. He gets a lot of investors to get in on it, but they buy X and they really gave us free speech for a minute. Like for the first year, it was wide open. It was free speech. And then all of a sudden it's gradually going away to now it's the same as almost any other platform. Really, they won't kick you off if you say something that goes against their narrative, the accepted narratives, but they won't let anyone see you neither. So it's the freedom of speech versus freedom of reach thing. But it's they don't want us and they will never let us have a free form for discourse. We will never see a digital town square. Why? Because if we did, for any length of time, we would realize we would have discussions, we would network, and we would put it together. It's the bankers. It's the system. We need to reset it somehow. Is it going to be messy? Of course it is, but it's necessary. Another Band-Aid isn't going to work. We're hemorrhaging.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. I mean, next time you go to a dinner party with your wife and you're sitting around with the couples, try mentioning that. Be like, all wars are banker wars. See how quickly people roll their eyes.
I'm not allowed to talk in those situations. Like and I don't want to. Like I can't do normie stuff, man. Like I can't do it. I'd have to have 2 hours of an introduction to get you up to speed a little bit before I could even endeavor to have a conversation with someone that's not
You
initiated into this.
you bring out the slides. Are like, all right, we're gonna start with Socrates.
Yeah. You would have to. So you're in a cave and you're chained to the wall, and what you think is reality is shadows. It's a good starting point.
It's a drinking game. Every time somebody rolls their eyes, you take a shot.
That was Plato, actually. Getting my
No,
Greek,
yeah, that was
getting my
Plato.
Greek
Yeah,
thinkers mixed up.
I
So
got
let's.
I got the reference, but I never actually. What was the point of the story? You're trying to explain something to someone who doesn't
Well,
have any
it's
concept.
it's an allegory, right? So like most people interpret what they see as reality. And in the allegory, like you can get out of the cage and see the rest of the world. And if you come back and you try to tell the people who are still seeing these shadows cast on the cave wall what you know, they're not going to feel enlightened by what you tell them. They're going to dislike you. They're going to view you as it's almost like a cognitive dissonance. There's just no way, you're an idiot. And it's easier to dismiss those people. And that's one of the big problems.
I think Plato never really got over the death of Socrates. It just scarred him for life.
But what else do we got here for questions? We got Peggy. Her comments do go to the top. They're newer than the other ones, but they go to the top for some reason. Good morning, fellas. Good morning, Peggy. Your audio sounds fine. And here's the comment. The virus coverage is good coverage for the IPCC backtracking on the climate crisis.
International Panel for Climate Change. I don't understand. Hantavirus gives them cover to distance themselves from climate change. Is that what she's saying?
I would guess so. It's kind of worded in an odd way.
So I'll share my thoughts. The what are the IHR, International Health Resolutions, as well as the WHO Pandemic Treaty that came out at the peak of climate change during the Biden administration. When I say the peak, what I mean it was like the last push. We've gotten Trump out. This is our last chance to implement climate communism around the world. And it didn't work. The world kind of rejected it. 2024, Trump gets in, and they want you have to. Was that an earthquake or low flying airplane? You have to hand it to Trump. They did put the nail in the coffin in the climate change movement. And I think that's why this whole hantavirus thing isn't going to work anymore.
I think the people just in general, we a lot of us woke up. COVID is what did it. It's like they were really trying to push us into something. I think COVID was supposed to be like the initiation stage of something that wasn't going to stop. And I think maybe we pushed back a little more than they would have liked to have seen. But I'll tell you what it did do is it took a lot of people like me who were sleeping. I was asleep prior to COVID. I wasn't paying attention. I was living my life. Um, it woke us up, and like we could see this thing now, and there's millions of us. So like that's not an easy fix. It's really not. And that's why there's an old saying, and it's you see censorship only when the lie loses its power. And that's what's happened. The lies are losing their power. People can see past them now. So now what are they going to do? Well, they're going to have to shut everyone up so they have a monopoly on the narrative. And that'll kind of get us all back in line. Even if it's long term, it's a viable solution as far as they're concerned.
Just to go back to the pandemic treaty, if you read the treaty, they have terms in there like One Health, so everything from human to animal to plant health. They mention transgenderism, they mention war. Um, what they were hoping to do was use climate change as the lens through which they bring their tyranny, and it backfired. So this hantavirus thing would have fallen under that lens as they tried to do with COVID, but probably they've abandoned that. The next push, I think, is going to be racial division.
Oh my God, yes, you're seeing it. It's funny because as much as there's censorship on social media, it's seeming like the racial division is still winning in this algorithm war, right? Like I'll be scrolling through TikTok, man, and I'll just get the most racist shit. Now there's people, look, you can be a Canadian or American and be against the radical demographic shift in your country. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. You don't have to become some like biological determinist or a white supremacist. You don't have to do that. But you're seeing that. And I think that's going to be a destabilizing aspect. And people are dumb and people are angry. So it's like that jar analogy. They got the ants in the jar and they shook it to hell. And now we're lining up to rip each other apart based upon immutable characteristics.
Yeah. How are we doing for questions?
We're pretty much done on the questions. We got one more I'd like to bring up, but we're pretty much done on the time too. So this might be an interesting one. True West, free-form discourse is possible. Use the old methods, person to person, form social circles, etc.
Yeah, it's good advice, and I have to admit, when I'm talking to people face to face, I have to be careful what I say. I can't just make hyperbolic statements. I can't, start swearing at other people, and I have to consider the fact that I might get called out on whatever I say. Whereas when you're on social media or even a podcast, you can just say anything, and that might be a big part of why society is falling apart.
I find when I'm speaking to people in regular life, there's some people, a very small minority of them, but they're there that are absolutely receptive. They know some things too. They'll engage in the conversations like they are awake, but the vast majority of people are just not willing to entertain it. You can see their eyes glaze over right away. And I don't even think that they think you're crazy anymore. I think they just know that they're cognitive dissonant. They don't want to look at it. I always use this analogy, but there's a monster under the bed and you're too afraid to check. I think that's where a lot of people are with this thing. And it's a bad approach for sure.
It just doesn't interest them. It would be as if, if we brought a guest on and the guest started reciting poetry, and past a certain point, you and me are like, what the hell is he talking about? It's like, 5th century poetry. This doesn't interest me.
Mhm.
So when I go to somebody and I talk to them about the banking system, about how we don't have access to justice, they don't want to hear that. They want to order a pizza and pick up girls.
Yeah, or talk about whatever, sporting event or music event, whatever it might be. And it's a big problem. But to answer the question a little more directly, um, for me, when I look at it, I'm looking for efficacy. I want um, I want to reach people. I want to engage with people. I want to challenge people's precepts. And that's why I'm on social media. So even when I go to a platform like Substack, no, I have an actual like 30,000 following on X. On Substack, I have hardly any. But like just by design, like the masses aren't there yet. Like they're still on these bigger platforms, and like until they are on there, I mean, you can't reach them through these other platforms, and you can't. How many people can you organize locally? Not that you shouldn't. You should definitely be organizing with your neighbors. If you have some like-minded neighbors, have some emergency or contingency plans. But I mean, if you're looking to get a message out, if you're looking to reach and challenge people, you're kind of stuck trying to scream into an empty room on these platforms where you're suppressed.
I mentioned that I've sort of stepped back from social media, whereas 6 months ago, if I watched an interview like the one that you did with on social credit, I would go in, I'd clip it out, and I would share it on social media. And the reason I would do that is because I want to educate the people that are following me. I don't even know if that's effective anymore, because if everybody is doing that every single day, there's just so much content, no one can absorb that.
Yeah, and the worst part is it's selective. And it's like we were saying before, like that you're seeing this racial division that's winning. It's winning the algorithm wars, like that's what's being pumped up, while the more rational, reasonable, or nuanced voices that want to look at practical solutions without just spewing vitriol, they're buried. So if that's by design, or there is something nefarious going on in the background, that's a big hurdle to overcome.
It is, yeah. The algorithm is, I don't know how we get over that.
Yeah, it's a big problem. We would need Elon to do something radical, like give us all free speech again, take the
He
consequences.
he came out and he did a weird post. I think he was hinting at his political party that he wants to create. Did you see that?
No,
He mentioned this a while ago. I can't remember over what it was, but he got so angry. He said we need a new political party that's America first, and then it didn't really go anywhere after that.
yeah, I hear him talking a lot about communism and anti-communism, and it's like we're watching a banking oligarchy transition our nations, our once sovereign nations, into some kind of corporatist state. They're utilizing the historical model for fascism, which is a public-private partnership. This is not communism. It's like, again, it's neo-feudalism or fascism. Communism, like you could say there's aspects where it's all controlled by a group, it's authoritarian, but communism is predicated on the proletariat seizing the means of production. We're not seeing that. This isn't someone seizing the means of anything. This is the banking oligarchs squeezing that fistful of sand tighter. Hopefully they'll squeeze it so tight enough of us will slip through their fingers that we can form an actual resistance. But every day it
The
seems less likely.
the trademark JP Berg maneuver, answer the question you were hoping to get asked.
I can't even help myself. I don't even realize I'm doing it until people call me on it. That's how naturally it comes to me.
That's fine. I do it as well. I just wanted to, before we leave that topic, when I said that Musk wants to create a new political party, Colonel McGregor, he hinted at this during the Iran conflict, where everybody else was using Trump as a punching bag. He came out and he said, "Listen, we've been trying to do this for a very long time, and we can't vote our way out of this. Maybe it's time we formed a new political party." And he's been going community to community, talking about that.
I think we'll probably see that in America before the 2028 election. I really do. I think it might be people like MTG, Tucker Carlson, Joe Kent, this type of opposition that's forming. That I guess you'd say the true America first. I trust none of them. After this Trump betrayal, it's like what they do here's how they ensure they control the opposition, in my estimation, is they prop up the bad guy. They prop up this guy, and he's going to just tell you the truth. So the people, the population, are going to fall for it. And at the same time, they're going to vilify him and keep him on the periphery. And then when he's in place and the people trust him, then he follows the script and we get nowhere. And that's what I fear with Tucker Carlson coming up. Like, I watched Tucker, and he's saying everything that needs to be said. He's saying it very eloquently. And it's like, but he's part of this. He's been part of this. His father's been part of this. Is he just the next maneuver from this class? And it's almost impossible to know. You'll go mad if you think like that all the time.
Yeah, it's hard to plan several steps ahead.
Indeed. With that said, I didn't do it once through the episode because I'm a terrible host, but we have about 111 people watching presently. If you guys could share this, all we get is organic reach. We are very much deboosted in the algorithm, so we very much appreciate it. And with that said, Payman, I'll give you the last thoughts.
Um, I don't know, hang in there. Things are bad right now, but just keep educating yourselves. Don't fall for the despair. Let's go with that with the hantavirus thing. Don't fall for the same trap that we fell in with COVID, where we thought like, oh shit, we're out of hope. No, no, no. Just say no. Just say no. Just like drugs, just say no. I will not submit.
I like it. And if you're getting a little tired of it, turn it off like Payman did. Get out of it. Get out in nature and live your life. So with that said, guys, thank you all for coming out and participating, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same channel. Cheers.